So tell us about this film.
The name of the film is What Walaa Wants, and it's about a young Palestinian girl who lives in Bala refugee camp in the West Bank in the Palestinian territories. And she wants to be a cop. She actually wants to be a police officer on the Palestinian security forces. And she's sort of got a lot of obstacles standing in her way. The film begins shortly after her mother is released from prison. So she's extremely resilient and really, really driven, and a very delightful character to follow. Right. And I followed her for 6 years, and it follows her sort of on this roller coaster ride through her life and her goal to make it through boot camp to be a cop.
And how did you find her?
I was there for a different reason, actually. I was invited to be in the West Bank during these friends of mine, these Danish women had a video game workshop. And they were teaching young women in conflict zones or developing areas how to design their own video games. Anyways, I was there shooting footage of their workshops for them and looking for a film. And 3 days before we left, I met Walaa, and that's how it all started.
And you followed her for 6 years. Can you tell us what you learned about her after the 6 years? Or something that primarily sticks out in your mind about her?
That's a really good question. You know, it's really fascinating. You learn a lot about somebody, especially during that time in their lives, because she was just about to turn 16 when I met her and 21 when I finished. So you really, I guess you learn a lot about what people yearn for and what they're capable of and what they desire or what they want, you know, in terms of their life or their potential and what they accomplish. But that they might be a little bit too shy or too, nobody ever asks you those kinds of questions. I think having the camera there to follow her through this in a way made her realize that her desire to be a policewoman wasn't something that she should hide from her family or from, her neighbors or wherever. That's sort of where a lot of the resistance comes from for her at the beginning of the story. So I think I guess I just decided that I discovered with Walaa that there's a lot of ambition, there's a lot of potential in this young woman when, around the world, the view on young people who live in difficult circumstances can be really diminished and the expectations can be quite low. And I think what she did is really impress me with the level of her ambition and the belief that she had in herself.
Tell us, as they were discussing today at today's conference, 50% of the films that they're going to be showing here are from women directors, and how do you feel about that?
Very happy, obviously. Yeah, I think it's really great. And Hot Docs has always been incredible in terms of the diversity of stories, but it's important and long overdue. I think that there's that parity and that we're hearing, the population is sort of 50, the story should reflect the balance of the population, and I think women's stories show the world in a much different way, a much fresher way, and a distinct way that we're not used to seeing.
And tell us a little bit, or comment about the support that the National Film Board has given you for this film.
Very lucky to have the National Film Board of Canada on the film. Justine Pimlott actually approached us in the fall of 2015, and she, like everyone, just sort of fell in love with Walaa as a character. I mean, this is a young woman who can really carry a film, and it's not a boring story. And from that point on, we worked with the NFB. It's also a Danish-Canadian co-production, so I work with Anna Kuhnke as the producer in Denmark, and so we've kind of been pushing the film forward from that point. And they've been enormously supportive. It's really, I've never done a film with the NFB before, so it's been a wonderful experience working with them.
And how is it personally to have your film here at the 25th anniversary of Hot Docs?
It's great, actually. Of course, it really shows in the audiences. 25 years is really reflected in how incredibly warm and receptive and critically engaged the audience is here. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that 25 years this festival has been sort of building that audience and that relationship to documentary films. So, and this is the third film I've had at Hot Docs, so I feel it feels a little bit like being at home. And I was saying to a friend that sometimes when I'm shooting a film, you kind of picture that the most ideal audience, when you're making these decisions as a director. And I think the audience that I'm always sort of feeling is the Hot Docs audience. So I'm very happy to be showing the film here.
And what do you want your audience to take home with them after watching this film, or is there some sort of message that you would like to relay to them, and with this film, of course?
There are not a whole, I mean, and hopefully there will be many, many more films from Palestinian filmmakers telling their stories. There's not a whole lot here. So I think what this film does is it gives people a unique window through her eyes, as much through Walaa's own POV of her world and her life. And so I think the thing I would like is just for people to feel like what it's like to live there, what it's like to be her, what it's like to be a young woman who wants to achieve the same kind of goals that any kid does here in North America, and to really go on this journey with her and root for her, and while she battles demons, sort of both external and internal, and all of that kind of thing. So I think it's more about like just the understanding a little bit, yeah, exactly, and to get past what assumptions might be, or negative assumptions might be about her, and I think that's what I would want, is for them to feel in a little bit like she's family after they see the film.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for talking to me about the film.
Thank you.